I'll now recognize myself for 5 minutes for a round of questioning. Both in a letter I received yesterday and in his opening statement, the ranking member read or paraphrased the following paragraph. As the son of two ministers from a small church in Baltimore, I completely understand the position of the faith-based community on this issue. I know both through my faith and my legal training that we have an obligation as a nation to make accommodations. I'll now pause. He goes on to say, where appropriate, to avoid undue interference with the practice of religion in this country. For each of you, if I simply strike from this paragraph, where appropriate, obviously determined by the government, and undue, obviously determined by the government, and I read, to make accommodations to avoid interference with the practice of religion in this country, is that paragraph and that statement consistent with each of your views? I see all yeses. So is it fair to say then that what we're debating here is government's decision that it can determine on behalf of people of faith and conscience the question of where appropriate and what is undue? Seeing also yeses. If, in fact, this stands, and would you put that poster up for, would you bring out the poster of our President John F. Kennedy? John F. Kennedy said, I would look with favor, upon a president working, I would not look with favor upon a president working to subvert the First Amendment's guarantee of religious liberty. For each of you, or any of you, do you believe that, in fact, we have a president's administration, not him personally, who is working to subvert the guarantees of religious liberty?
Yes.
Rabbi?
Yes, absolutely. That is what the current policy does, in effect. What their motivation is, I can't speak for that, but there is no question that the current policy and intent announced by the Department of Health and Human Services does restrict and does effectively damage religious liberty in this country.
Let me ask a question, because each of you has expressed either opposition to the rule on the merits of what it does, or opposition because of how it affects future decisions of religious freedom. But let me go briefly into the question of the actual health items it affects. I was brought up to believe that government in this country is separate, clearly separate from our faith, and that often government does things which in our faith we object to, but that is in fact the part of give Caesar his due that we all grew up being taught in one way or another. So in fact, if government were to provide these services over our personal objections, if government were to take our tax money and fund that, something that we have a heated discussion about all the time, would you change your position, not from objecting to the particular funding, but to the question of whether or not it is in fact impinging on or infringing your liberty and your ability to teach your faith and to practice it? Yes, Bishop.
Government already does supply those things with our tax dollars. What we're objecting to is that government is now reaching into the internal governance of our religious bodies and requiring us directly or indirectly to use our own resources for it, because there's no such thing as free.
So for all of you, and when you get to lead this off, it's sometimes easy and sometimes hard, but I want to set the stage, I think, for both sides. The fact is, today, what many of the members of the minority talked about, women's rights, reproductive rights, safety, health, the fact is the government spends your tax dollars involuntarily in many cases, to do things that are along these lines, either for the poor and indigent or for others. And although religiously you may object to it, you recognize that that's separate from telling you must participate directly through your activities. Is that really what we're talking about here today?
Definitely.
Reverend Harris?
Precisely. And it's been said that Caesar must be given no less than what is Caesar's, but no more either. And you hit the nail right on the head. We participate by paying our taxes in every aspect of society. We participate communally, et cetera. But this provision is draconian in that it invades the realm of our conscience, and it becomes impossible for us.
Thank you. My time has expired, but Dr. Mitchell, you may answer if you briefly.
Yeah, especially when you consider that most religious organizations are self-insured. We have our own insurance agencies, and forcing us to use our own money to do this, that's really getting into it.
Rabbi, do you have anything?
I think that's exactly right, Chairman Issa. And the President's spokesman recently, when speaking about the subject, said that what their concern is that they don't want religious employers, organizations restricting access to specific prescriptions, et cetera. But of course, those who have a religious objection are not seeking in America to restrict their access to it. What they are seeking is the freedom in their own right not to facilitate something that violates the tenets of their own faith.
Thank you. The gentleman from the ranking member is recognized for 5 minutes.
Bishop Lurie, I want to thank you. I want to thank all of you for being here. And let me say that I'm very thankful for the service of your organization and other Catholic groups that provide so much help to the poorest among us. So I thank you. On today's topic, I'd like to ask about all the other Catholic entities that praised the administration for their decision last week to allow them to operate consistently with their faith in the law. Because people are becoming confused. Some still have questions such as how entities that self-insure will be treated, but they all commended the administration. Unlike you, they believe these remaining issues can be worked out. For example, the Catholic Health Association represents the largest group of nonprofit healthcare providers. They stated that they were, and I quote, very pleased with the White House announcement that a resolution has been reached and that protects the religious liberty and conscience rights of Catholic institutions, end of quote. Similarly, Catholic Charities USA, the largest private network of social service organizations in the United States, stated that, and I quote, it welcomes the administration's attempt to meet the concerns of the religious community, end of quote. Catholics United is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting the Catholic social tradition. They called the White House plan, and I quote, a win-win solution, and stated that, and I quote, President Obama has shown us that he is willing to rise above the partisan fray to deliver an actual policy solution that both meets the health care needs of all employees and respects the religious liberty of Catholic institutions, end of quote. And I know we can all differ in our opinions. But Bishop Lurie, do you disagree with all these other Catholic leaders who believe the administration has struck the right balance?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to comment on that. First of all, when the announcement was made last Friday, it came upon certainly the bishops' conference of a sudden. There was no prior consultation. It was not given to us in writing, and it was told to us not long before it was announced. When we first heard it ourselves, we wondered if there might not also be a glimmer of hope, but upon further analysis within that same day, we immediately began to see problems. Catholic Health Association put put out its own statement for which it is responsible. Catholic Health Association does not speak for the church as a whole. The Catholic bishops speak for the church as a whole. It is a lobbying group. It is a trade association. It is not the Catholic Church as such. And it is instructive that as time has passed on and there's been further opportunity for analysis, both at the level of morality and at the level of policy, there are questions that Catholic Health Association itself is now rightfully asking. Catholic Charities USA is in the same position. While it initially offered a positive statement, it would seem, as time goes on, it has also recognized that there are very serious problems at the level of principle and at the level of practicality, and they have issued a statement indicating their solidarity with the bishops. I don't know much about Catholic United, except it doesn't have any particular standing in the church.
A few minutes ago, the chairman asked a question, I think I got it right. Did you all believe that the Obama administration was truly, do you really believe that he's trying to subvert religion? I think the rabbi did answer that. Did you answer that? Do you really believe that?
Would the gentleman yield?
Yeah. Well, whatever question.
The word subvert,
I said, well, why don't you correct me? Tell me what you asked. You held up the sign and just tell me what you asked. I just want to ask the question that you asked. I'm asking him specifically.
we'll ask unanimous consent for additional 1
No
minute.
problem. I said very clear. I wasn't trying to confuse anybody. The rabbi answered the question. Remember, Rabbi, what was the question?
Just for the record, Rabbi, I said that President John F. Kennedy said, I would not look with favor upon a president working to subvert the First Amendment's guarantee of religious liberty. And then I asked all about John F. Kennedy's statement. And the gentleman was closer to right than I remembered.
Okay.
If I could just speak to that for 1 moment. And I did not say, Congressman Cummings, that the President or the administration is trying to subvert religious freedom. What I said was that the policy, in effect, damages religious freedom. I made no statement at all about what they are intending to do. That's not, I'm not saying anything about that.
And what about you, Rabbi? I mean, do you really believe that?
You mean myself?
Yeah, you.
Congressman, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I believe there are serious challenges, and not just with the HHS rule, but also we saw serious challenges with Hosanna Tabor, and we saw serious challenges in an attempt by HHS to deny contracts to Migration and Refugee Services and Catholic Relief Services because those organizations, in fidelity to the Church, would not provide the so-called full range of reproductive services. We have an ad hoc committee on religious liberty that is a part of the Bishops' Conference because we have massive concerns about religious liberty at the state and federal level. Massive concern.
If I remember, we had a hearing on that, on these contracts that you just talked about, and it showed that in the